butterfly. We are in our final block. This is super exciting. I didn't think this day would come and it came all too fast. So, medium pie block, that's what we're focusing on in the applique method. So, if you want to do it as actually cut out the templates, piece it with curve piecing, feel free to go for it. It's just a basic courthouse step, but it's a small block. So be careful, those smaller curves can be tricky. So I created for you guys this applique method. So they're going to be these cute little, what she calls pie blocks. Super fun. So easy peasy. I really love this method because it goes so fast. So we'll make you a sample like this, and you just have 8 of them. So, and then we're done. We put this thing together, so I'm excited. Once again, refer back to your lovely color chart and go find them. They're in here and down in the bottom. So they're down in the kind of the bottom portion of your butterfly. So go find them, find your color chart, find your fabrics, decide your colors. Simple. The background square is 6.5. If you're concerned about your appliques sucking them in, then go up to like a 7-inch square, and then that way you can just trim down when you're done, just in case, because sometimes applique will pull that background in and make it too skinny. So if you want to err on the side of caution, 7 inches, trim down to 6.5 after you do the applique. This one doesn't get any easier. Make a 4-patch. So because my coloring is 4 different colors per pie block, I have 4 different squares. I cut my squares at 3.5. So once it's all together, it's about 6.5. Now we don't care about this 4-patch being true and clean because we're going to turn it into a circle. Okay. So 3.5-inch squares, you can do 3.25 if you don't want to be too wasteful. 3.5 just gives you plenty of room. And it comes out like 6.5 once it's together. Then what we're going to do, just like the other blocks, so just like these guys, aren't they pretty? They turned out really great. We're going to do the same thing and cut out a circle and stabilizer. All right, so super easy because we're working small portions. What I did is I took template G. Let's see if I can get my alphabet going up. I took template G, I cut off the 2 straight edge seam allowances. So I cut off these, so the only seam allowances on the outer curve, because these seam allowances are already taken in this 4-patch. Okay, they're already inside here. So you don't want to give yourself extra room. It'll make a bigger circle, which is okay. It just will take up more space of your background. So you can take what I used was 6-inch squares of single-sided fusible stabilizer, and then cut out with the template. So I took the square, folded it in quarters, laid the template, and cut that curve so that I got a circle. Okay, so you just want to make sure you have a circle. It should approximately be 6 inches across the middle, so that when you're laying it on your 4-patch, it will be inside. Now, so that you can center your circle so the pie is nice and even, all you do is fold this guy in half, kind of press it with your fingers. I pressed it in half again, so I gave myself some crosshairs, and you can kind of see them. They don't need to be super big, but then you line them up with the X and Y's of your seams, right? Just like last time. And then I'm going to pin it because I need to sew it. And I'll show you how it'll look. I love my family comes to visit right when I record. Okay, so I've got it pinned. It's nice and even. I don't know if you can tell. The seam allowance is pretty much even on all 4 sections where they meet. And all I'm going to do is take it to my machine and sew 1/4 inch around, right? So super easy. I occasionally lift the foot so it doesn't bunch up under that stabilizer. You can pull pins out as you go if you're worried about them getting under your needle. I tried to pin far enough inside that I shouldn't have that problem. I'm going to pull some of them just because, you know, mayhem happens here. Go all the way around. And then cut it out. So we'll see if you can tell. Hopefully. So, 1/4 inch. Then all you do is you take your shears, sharp ones, and you trim it. We're gonna flip it, just like last time. Nothing new. Unless you didn't watch the video from 2 weeks ago. Forgot, we weren't here last week. We had Thanksgiving. So hopefully y'all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Maybe got some sewing done, got caught up on blocks, so you're not stressed out. Or maybe you just ate a bunch like I did and sat around. Just enjoyed not doing anything for once. That's always fun. Okay, so cut your circle out, and then just cut little darts, as they call them. Just cut little lines. Careful to not cut your seams. I had one, I got a little aggressive cutting my little slits, and when I flipped it, they tried to come apart, so I had to go back and stitch more. So let's see if you can tell. So right here, I have these little, just little notches, so that when you flip it around, it has room to give, and it won't get as bulky. And then all you do is take your stabilizer, pull it away from the fabric. See if we can do this. Pull it away and just do a slit so that you can cut your stabilizer. This way we can flip it so that it's right side out. Okay, so we have our slit and then we flip. And then what I do is I just kind of run my finger along the edges. So I'm going to start trying to get the fabric to be nice and curved, not too many edges that try not to be smooth. So I'm just going to use my nail. You can use, if you don't have nails like me, use a stiletto, the OESD point turner tool. Oh my god, it is my favorite, and I even use it at the end. So I take just one of the round ends and I just run it along the seam so it's nice and pretty. Okay, so then ta-da, circle. Easy peasy. Then I take background, I fold it in half one way and then in half the other way, just like we did with the stabilizer, just to make kind of line up marks. So you probably can't tell. Yeah, you kind of can. So there's folds. So I'm just making crosshairs so that I can match up the crosshairs of my circle. That just helps make everything even. And then I have a hot iron with steam already going. Hopefully, if it didn't turn off while it was waiting. And I just press and hold so that that fusible of the stabilizer makes it stick. So when I'm stitching it down, it doesn't go anywhere. So try to get my steam to work. So when I do the applique portion, we'll go back to this guy. We'll go up close. This I just did kind of a 1/4 inch, probably 1/8 inch actually, around, and I did with a top stitch. So all I did was lengthen my stitch to about 2/8, 2/9, or 3, depends what kind of top stitch you like. Just a bigger decorative stitch. You don't need it super tight. It just looks a little nicer. And I just used gray to sew it down because gray's neutral. I don't have to worry about it necessarily glaring. And so I'm just going to take it to my machine. I'll show you. Same thing, I stop, pick up the foot, cut it back down, just so I don't want anything bunching underneath. And then keep going. Nice thing is, it's a small circle, it doesn't take very long. And then trim my threads. And voila! We're done! Woo woo! Easy, right? So that's as simple as it gets. If you're concerned about bulk because there is that stabilizer in there plus all your background, you can do kind of the same thing. You can pull apart the background, cut a little slit in it, and then kind of what I would say, carve out the backing circle so it's not as bulky. If that's a concern for you, just cut around, but just be super careful because you don't want to cut through the circle that you applique down. You just want to make sure you kind of pull the backing from the circle and do the same thing. Cut a little slit and then cut it out. I guess I could probably show you. I was going to be lazy and not do it to my blocks, but we'll show you. Here's my sharp scissors. Haha. Love these guys. So I'm just the backing. And that way I can kind of get my scissors in there away from, so I'm pulling it away to make sure I don't. And then a little finer scissor and just kind of trim some of this bulk away, especially so my long armor doesn't get mad at me for these big bulky blocks in there. And you can cut that stabilizer out too, because it's really no longer needed. It was just the vehicle to do the flip in the applique. It's not really necessary to stay in there. So I'm just trimming out some of this bulk. It's not pretty, but guess what? Doesn't matter. It's going to be inside with the batting, so nobody's going to care, okay? So my cutting is like a 2-year-old, but so notice I can cut a little closer, and I might to clean it up, but that gives you the idea. That way there's not as much bulk. It's definitely not as stiff as, say, this one. It's the full. This one's definitely firmer. So those are your two options. Trim it out, throw the excess away, or leave it in and not worry about it. It's really personal preference. If you're just concerned about that bulk, just cut out that backing. You don't need it anymore and be done and do those. So 8 of these is all you've got. And then if you're not done with all your blocks, catch up, because next week we'll start showing layout for like section 1. I'll get my design wall going and start showing you how to do that. So you will want to start cutting your background for the rest of the quilt. There are cutting instructions for all the different sections of background. And then I have sticky notes for every section, so I have all my background pieces organized. So that's where we're at, guys. If you have any questions, reach out to me, let me know. Otherwise, happy stitching. Have a great weekend.